I'm going to tell you something and you are going to get really jealous of me. Last month, I spent 2 weeks on vacation with Stephen King. Yeah, Stephen King. Steve and I, just me and him, having a great time. Next month, I'm going to spend 2 weeks with John Green. Yeah, just me and John having fun. Would you like to know exactly how you too can have a holiday, maybe with J.K. Rowling, George R. R. Martin? Well, watch the rest of this video. Just sit back, relax. I'm going to tell you exactly how you can do that too. Hello, I'm Samuel Durham. I'm a playwright. And if this is your first time watching one of my videos, I make videos for my ideal viewer. And my ideal viewer is passionate about one of three things, or all three things. You are an apprentice screenwriter, novelist, or a playwright. You love books. You love the act of reading novels, plays, screenplays. And thirdly, you are passionate about self-improvement. What's the point of staying the same? Surely you want to move and evolve as a human being. So I'm passionate about those three things, and I'm making these videos just for you. And my goal is to deliver videos that are rich in value in terms of information, education, motivation, and inspiration. Now, this morning I was having breakfast and I was listening to this audio book by John le Carré. And this is what I love about John le Carré is that he's a great storyteller. So even when he's reading his own books, although this is an abridged version, I usually don't like the abridged version, but this is amazing because even though I read this particular novel, I like to re-listen to it all the time. It's a bit like a great pop song, his voice. So that's when I was thinking, wouldn't it be great if I could go on a holiday with John le Carré? Even if it's just for 3 days. I think he's in his early 80s now. But I was dreaming about it. It would be so, I could ask him lots of questions because he's one of those rare authors who's not just a great storyteller. His novels can be regarded as works of literature as well. And he's unusual in the sense that he had banned his agents and his agent and literary editors to put forward his novels for any prizes. Because he once said in a Radio 4 interview that over 10 years ago, he said, writing is golf. You are competing against yourself. For that reason, I don't want my novels to be put forward to any literary prize. Because the truth is, he could have won the Booker Prize many times long time ago, right? But way back in the 60s, when he became financially secure with this novel, he made that decision. And I hope one day I'll be in that position because I think that's the best place to be. You're not doing it to win prizes, but you're doing it because you love the craft of storytelling. So I would love to go on a holiday with them. So I created this tag. So there are certain things to be careful about so that you can have fun with it. Firstly, there are 7 types of holiday, 7 different questions. And for for the answers, you can pick any author, right? So I know you might pick novelists because we usually tend to read a lot of novels, but I might pick screenwriters, poets, playwrights, and also I also suggest you look into non-fiction authors as well. We're living through a time there are so many great journalists and non-fiction authors putting out great work. For example, Morgan Jerkins, Dolly Alderton, Naomi Klein, Nancy Jo Sales, Michael Lewis, and especially Malcolm Gladwell. So, and there are many, many more. So what I recommend is look into those works, and it's about your favorite authors and dreaming about going on a holiday with them. And also, what will you do with it? I mean, surely if you love literature or even genre novels, you must have dreamed about this. I'm not the only nerd who does this, right? Tell me I'm not that weird. Okay, don't answer that one. The other thing to bear in mind is that you can, time traveling is allowed. So you can go back in time, let's say to the 1960s, and spend some time with Sylvia Plath, for just an example. Or you can bring her forward to our time and then maybe show her the Gwyneth Paltrow biopic of her life and have a little discussion about it. Depends on who you like. And with all these questions, the goal is to use your imagination. Now, with your imagination, There are no rules, there are no restrictions. There's a great line in my play Taylor Swift's Dog, where Yasmina, the protagonist, uses a quote from J.K. Rowling, where she said in an interview that when you have an imagination, you can do anything, right? So one of the purposes of this tag is that don't place any restrictions. For example, don't say, oh, that author is too old, so I don't want to spend time with him or her. But you can play with timelines in such a way so that they are closer to your age, and have fun with it. Just go wild, just go crazy, have fun doing this. So the first type of holiday is the family vacation, the family holiday. Most of us have been on one of these, right? I mean, this is something that we all have to. It's compulsory, isn't it, when you're a child? But even when you're an adult, even when you're in your late teens or 20s, you still go on holiday with your parents. And I know people who are in their 30s and even 40s and 50s, they go on holiday with their parents. It happens. So in this particular scenario, what you have to do is answer 3 questions, right? So who are the members of your family? Where is your destination for this family vacation, and why? Right? So let's select our family. So in my family, my father is, of course, John le Carré. For most of the reasons I mentioned earlier, he's a great storyteller. He's born under the sign of Libra, and Librans are interestingly, Librans and Cancerians are the top 2 signs when it comes to storytelling. So the highest number of novelists, screenwriters, and playwrights are Librans or Cancerians. It's just the way it works. I'm sad enough to have done a long study of this for years. So John le Carré is right at the top, prolific, really important novelist for me, and I'm sure for many other people. He's read widely. Every time there's a John le Carré novel comes out, you go to any bookstore, you'll see people buying, because it just happens. He's got a huge fan base even now. He's 87 years old. My dad, my pretend dad, he still sells a lot of copies. I love him. I read him. I listen to him on audiobook. Great voice. And so he's my father. My mother is going to be Agatha Christie. Now, this is where we have to play with timelines, right? Because Agatha Christie, if you think about it, she died, I think, in the 1970s. But let's pretend that this Agatha Christie is someone I'm going to bring from when she's about 70, right? So I'm going to bring her into this moment, and we're going to go on a holiday with her. Why do I like Agatha Christie? Well, Christie teaches me is the art of creating great plots. And now you might not like her prose style, and you might not like her characters or characterization. But her great strength is how she builds these great plots. And these are, and to me, every Agatha Christie novel is a masterclass in storytelling. She's a Virgo. I know a lot about Virgos. They're perfectionists. They're maternal figures, and they're also very nurturing. They'll really care. And I've been reading Agatha Christie for a long time. In Britain, she's the #1 author in libraries when it comes to the most borrowed author every year. I think she's beaten most people, especially Shakespeare and J.K. Rowling. I'm one of those people who borrows a lot of Agatha Christie books, because every time you read an Agatha Christie novel, it's a masterclass in one thing: constructing great plots. Now, you can be contemptuous about her prose style, her characters, or characterization, but when it comes to creating great plots, she was amazing. And so I read her novels, and she's also a great woman. And if you read any biography of her, and she inspires me like that. And even now, adaptations of Agatha Christie novels to small screen or big screen, they are really popular, especially in England. And so I love her, and she's a Virgo. So Virgo and Libra don't usually go well together as husband and wife, but in this scenario, we're going to make it work. It's worked for all these years, right? Because they had me. Now, my older sister is going to be Donna Tartt. Donna Tartt is Capricorn. I'm Cancer, and Capricorn and Cancer are mirror signs. So all my positives are her negatives, and her negatives are my positives. And as we evolve, the goal is that we try and mirror her positive, and she will try and mirror my negatives and turn them into positives. This is the usual thing that can happen if you're really into self-improvement. If you're not into astrology, you think this is a lot of rubbish, but it is fun. It's fun. way of looking at it. Donna Tartt, I love her because she's a pure storyteller whose novels could also be regarded as works of literature. And as an older sister, she'll be amazing. Her output hasn't been good. Only 3 novels since the early 90s. But she's really dedicated to the craft. And you see, there are so many interviews with her. And there's this amazing interview that she did with Charlie Rose a few years ago. And she's always stylishly dressed. And Charlie Rose asked her about poetry because Donna Tartt loves to memorize lines of poetry and recite them like me. So he asked her, can you just recite the poem? And she, just like that, comes up with a poem by W.B. Yeats, Sailing to Byzantium. And she gets almost every line right. And she gets 99% of the whole poem right. And Charlie Rose is amazed. Now, if you're cynical, you could say, oh, they must have rehearsed it. But I don't think so. I think she's like that. So, and I think it would be fun to go on a holiday with my older sister, Donna Tartt, and Agatha Christie, my mother, and John le Carre. And my older brother will be Malcolm Gladwell. He's a Virgo, and we already got a Virgo mother. And I think it would be a good combination. Virgos love facts. They just love absorbing all this information. And he's also a great storyteller. Although he's in non-fiction, amazing storyteller. I watch his masterclass online, really useful. And also he's a great public speaker. I mean, I'm sure you've watched his videos. There's so many of those, and he gives great interviews. And imagine having him as my older brother. He's also into running, and I wasn't really into running, but then I started watching his videos, and he used to be a professional runner, and so I do a lot of that. I pretend he's my brother, so we go running together, pretending, and he's good on diet and fitness, so I think he'll be a good influence. So we got a good family. So where are we going to go? Well, I'm going to pick Athens in Greece. Why? Because that's where storytelling started, right? And we're all a family of storytellers in different ways. So I think all of us are going to have a great time there. And what I'm going to do is I'll probably call Bettany Hughes, the historian, the English historians. And Bettany Hughes has written at least 2 books that are connected to Athens and Greece. There was one about Helen of Troy, and there's another one about Socrates. Although storytelling has more links to Aristotle, Bettany Hughes will know a lot about Athens and that phase in history. So I think what I will do, I'll call Bettany Hughes and say, come and spend 2 days with her, with us, and then we'll spend maybe 2 weeks with the family. And I think that will be an amazing holiday. Now, the second type of holiday is an adventure holiday with your 16-year-old self and your favorite YA author, young adult author. I'm really passionate about this particular part of this tag because when I was a teenager, I was a real mess. You might not believe this. I was shy. I was really introverted. There's no way I would have made videos like this. I hated the way I look. I felt I was so ugly. Why would anyone want to look at me? And through a lot of self-improvement strategies, now I'm at a stage where I have evolved, or I like to think I have evolved. But when I was 16, I was a real mess. I mean, one of the reasons was because I came to England with my sister. I was 13 years old, and I knew about 20 words in the English language when we arrived at Heathrow Airport. And then I had to deal with all these issues to do with grief and separation, having to learn a new culture, language, all that. And on top of all the usual teenage angst and anxieties. So all that became too much. But at the same time, as I mentioned in some of my other videos, I had the sanctuary of English literature. So I read a lot. But the danger is that when you read a lot, you just stay indoors. And even in the summertime, I would stay indoors all through the summer holidays. I remember one summer holiday, I just read Catcher in the Rye, Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, Shakespeare plays. That's all I did, for about 2 months. Didn't go out much at all. And so the danger with that kind of bookish teenage years is that you become really shy, introverted, don't want to mix with people. And in those times, I wish I had somebody like an author who could come with me and tell me that things are going to get better. Things will be all right. You just have to get through it. And one day you will look at yourself and you will love what you see. There is a solution. There will be light at the end of this dark journey. Cliche, but that's how it is. That's how it felt like anyway. I thought things will never get better and I'm always going to hate myself. But I made that journey. So that's why I'm talking frankly with you because books help me. But I wish in my dream, I wish I had an author who could come alive and help me, like J.D. Salinger, for example. So for the purpose of this question, what I want you to do is pick an adventure holiday, and then you go back in time to your 16-year-old self with your favorite young adult author. And in that holiday, it's an adventure holiday. The great thing about it is that you'll be absorbed in some activity, right? Whatever that could be. And while you're doing that, you lose yourself. And then maybe for a week, you end up bonding with this favorite YA author of yours. So that's the idea. So in my case, the person I'm going to pick right now is that, so I'm going back in time to me when I was 16 years old, that mess of a boy. And what's going to happen is that in this timeline, I'm going to bring one of my favorite YA authors, that John Green. Now, I know John Green is a divisive figure. I love him. I find him really inspiring. So what's going to happen is that I'll go back to my 16-year-old self, and John Green will be there as he is right now, right? Established, iconic, and when I was 16, I wish we had someone like John Green, because when I was at school, I was really bookish and I did the work. I improved a lot quite quickly. So I did really well in exams and got top marks. But people used to make fun of me, like call me boffin and nerd. And it was horrible because back then the words like nerds and geek had a really horrible negative connotation. Whereas now, thanks partly to people like John Green and TV shows like Big Bang Theory, it's actually cool to be a nerd. I don't often use the word cool, right? And I'm using it carefully here because it's actually quite amazing to be a nerd. And I would argue that John Green had a huge influence on that for that generation who were teenagers from around, say, 2008 to this moment, because that's when John Green came on YouTube, to around 2008. So I wish I had a John Green type of figure when I was a teenager. There was nobody like that, and there were no TV shows that made being a teenage nerd, a geek who read a lot of science and books to be cool. And if anything, I felt alienated. I don't think today's generation feels that badly because thanks to also to J.K. Rowling and many other authors who make reading and studying exciting and fun. And also, I just got to clarify the term young adult novel or young adult literature. As I mentioned before, J.D. Salinger's Catcher in the Rye is one of the earlier YA novel, although in 1951 that term wouldn't have existed. The same can be said about Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird. Jason Reynolds, a really interesting YA novelist from the United States, he's talked about this as well, what I'm just saying. So you can pick any of those authors. I'm sure there'll be some people who would say, oh, I don't like YA, I hate YA, I don't want to do this question. In that case, pick another author, but still go back in time to yourself when you were 16, because don't tell me that when you were 15 or 16, you just had a great time. I don't think anyone has a really easy time during their teenage years, regardless of whether you were in a third world or a first world country. It's the same. It's the human condition, right? You're supposed to struggle through those years. So go back in time, but if you don't like YA, pick another author who might be useful to you in terms of being a mentor. So it could be Dickens, William Faulkner, Fitzgerald. They all had difficult early years, and they might teach you something. Oh, Jane Austen, George Eliot. If you look at their biographies, they might be helpful. So don't avoid the question. It's an important one. And the dream destination for me would be Kenya. So we're going to be Kenya 2 weeks with John Green and a group of 10 16-year-old girls and 10 16-year-old boys. And the reason why I picked a group is that for an introverted person, you don't want to spend time with only by yourself or with one other person. You should be doing lots of group activities. So in Kenya, we're going to be in the wilderness, no mobile phones, no internet. We have to interact with each other, and there'll be wild animals. We have to survive somehow. And I think this will bond everybody together, boys and girls. And John Green will be there as our mentor figure, giving us all sorts of information as he normally does. And we'll be reading old-fashioned books, not Kindle. And I think this will be a good bonding experience. And one of the goals will be to deal with our anxieties and doubts, but also to feel that as though it's okay to be a nerd, and most importantly, improve our social skills. So, and I think this is why it would be an amazing fun holiday in Kenya, low budget vacations. Now, you and your favorite author are financially secure. You got money. But the issue is that both of you are really tight. Both of you are really frugal when it comes to spending. So the plan now is to find a holiday that's really low budget, but still have a good time, right? That's the idea. And there are lots of low budget holidays. If you look online, there are, because I did the research on this. So what's going to happen is this: pick your favorite author and then pick a low budget location and then explain why you two will go well together, and whereby you're going to spend more time talking about whatever you want to talk about, and because you're careful with money, you can do other things, right? So with me, the person I'm going to pick is Charles Dickens. I love Dickens. I love him. So far I've read 2 good biographies of one by Peter Ackroyd, the other one by Michael Slater. I want to read Claire Tomalin's biography as well, and there's been, I think, at least 3 or 4 good ones so far. I plan to read all of them in time, and he fascinates me. John Irving, the great novelist, called Dickens the Shakespeare of the novel, and you know why he did that. It's amazing. All the great novels come from Dickens, I would argue. So in this scenario, what's going to happen is that Dickens will time travel from his time, but I'm going to pick Dickens of the mid 1850s, when he was the most famous novelist, most famous writer in the world, and that Dickens will come to my time. And we're going to go on a low budget holiday. Dickens was, interestingly, according to Ackroyd and Michael Slater, Dickens was really frugal, very parsimonious. He was really tight with money because he suffered a lot when he was a child and when he was a teenager, although the word teenager didn't exist back then. When he was around that age, he really struggled. So as a result, he was really careful with money, really tight with money. So he's the type of person who would appreciate my suggestion that we go on a low budget holiday instead of going to Miami and just go wild. We're going to pick a holiday. So this is where the budget is going to be under £500. So that would be about $620 US. Now, I'm now getting viewers from all over the world. So Canada, South Africa, Germany, Australia, France, and so on. So you try and work out whatever the value is according to our £500. And the destination I'm going to pick is Cornwall, which is a beautiful area. I was talking to a friend last week and she went there and she showed me the photos and it looks amazing. And I asked her, didn't you go to Agatha Christie's house? And she said she didn't know because she's not really a very literary person. I said, next time you should go there. And I would love to go there. And it would be cheap because we live in England. So me and Charles Dickens will travel to Cornwall by train. Because here's an interesting thing about Dickens and trains. He once had an accident where the railway of that time crashed. And there was a bit of a scandal because he was having an affair with the actress Nellie Turner. And he was supposed to be married, but Dickens being Dickens, he wasn't really good with women. So, and he was having this affair with a really young actress. I think she was about in her 20s. And then because of the accident, it became known that he was with her. So it would be interesting to go on a train journey with him because he will be amazed at how safe and fast our trains are on our time. And the other good thing is that he wouldn't know Agatha Christie because he died in 1870. Agatha Christie got her breakthrough in 1921. So they will know each other. So in that train journey, I could introduce him, chat about Agatha Christie, and maybe even give him one of her slender novels, and he might even read it while we're just going on the train. And then while we go there, we'll go to Agatha Christie's house, and then also go to Arthur Conan Doyle, that setting that he used for The Hound of the Baskervilles, the moors. So we'll go walking there. But the plan is just to spend more time with Dickens because he's the master of storytelling and great works of literature. So I could ask him lots of questions, and not just about the craft, but also about his life, because we know that just before he died, he made sure that somebody burned all his diaries and journals. So he must have had a lot of secrets, because one of his habits was that, according to Ackroyd and Michael Slater, is that he will write in the morning, always really routine obsessed, and a good lesson for all of us, right? So he will get up, write at least 2,000 words or more, and then in the afternoon he would go for these long walks through London, sometimes 3 hours. Interestingly enough, Stephen King copied that style, and then Stephen King has been doing that for over 30 years. So right in the morning, and then in the afternoon he will go for his long walks. So Dickens used to do that. But my question mark is, was he really going for those 3 hour walks? Because I don't really buy that, because there are other suggestions there that he spent a lot of time with fallen women or prostitutes, and he set up houses where they could go and live. So I'm curious about it, because I will ask him, come on, Charles, what really happened? Did you really just walk for 3 hours to dreaming up plots? I somehow don't buy that. I believe that Stephen King does that, right? I can buy him. I believe that. But Dickens was wild. So I will have all these questions to ask him, but ultimately we'll come back to literature. And the other thing I will ask him is that there was a BBC documentary a few years ago where the experts were talking about this question: what would Dickens do if he were alive now? And one person was saying that, well, Dickens would be writing TV shows. He'll be a screenwriter. He will be trying to write TV shows like Breaking Bad or The Wire, because when The Wire first came out, everyone said, oh, this is Dickensian, because it has that serial narrative, and also David Simon was using different parts of society to tell a story about the United States, and Dickens did that with Our Mutual Friend, Bleak House, and so on. So I would ask him, what would you do? Would you really be a screenwriter in Los Angeles working for HBO or Netflix or Amazon? Would he be doing that? But there was another guy on that documentary who said something more interesting, and he said that Dickens was more obsessed with money. So back in the 1840s, the 50s, he knew you could make decent money by writing novels, and he was good at that. But right now, if he were alive now, this expert said he wouldn't be writing novels because it's hard to make money. What he would do is he will design computer games for Xbox or Sony PlayStation, because you can make billions, right? More boys and girls play Xbox games than read novels. And Dickens will be so shrewd, because video games are a form of storytelling anyway. So, and I would go with that argument. So he will probably be a video games designer rather than a novelist, which is disappointing to hear. So, but I will ask him in this scenario. We'll have a chat. I mean, what would you do if you want to stay here permanently? He can stay in my house, in this house. Amazing, right? So, but what are you going to do? Are you going to write novels? Or are you going to design computer games? Or are you going to go to Los Angeles and become the next David Simon or Vince Gilligan? What's going to happen? So we're going to have all these fun questions. It would be amazing. Vocation as vacation. Now, this is about having a great passion. Do you have a great passion? Sometimes when I go on these dates, one of the questions I ask is, when you get up in the morning, what makes you come alive? What is that thought that you're so excited about? And in my experience, most women, they still haven't found that passion yet. So it's difficult. So we have a good chat, and they always tell me, oh, no one's ever asked me this question before. And in some ways, even though I might not end up dating them, I'm glad I helped them in a small way, because I think if you find a passion in life, then every morning you get up and it has a purpose. Your life has a purpose, a mission. And that, again, connected to one of the themes of my channel, which is self-improvement. So if you find your passion, and you can then turn that into a vocation. So in this particular segment of the original tag, what I want you to think about is a passion, something that you're passionate about, or explore, or use this opportunity to explore the things that you might be passionate about. So it will help you with your life and self-improvement. And so you're going to pick that passion, and you're going to turn that into a holiday with another favorite author of yours, and both of you are going on this holiday together. And it will be, in its whole point is that you helping other people in this holiday. So you're spending time and you're doing all sorts of things together, but ultimately it's about helping other people. So I hope you understand that. So what I'm going to do, so with me, my vocation in many ways, and I talked about this in so many other videos, is that I feel as though I've been blessed and cursed with the childhood, the first 13 years where I spent in a real world dystopia, a war zone. And I wish that didn't happen. My life would have been a lot easier. Fewer demons in my head again, but that's how it is. So I'm going to make sweet uses of that adversity. And in some ways it's a blessing, because there are not many people writing about that war, certainly not in an accessible way. And I've been lucky enough to win all these prizes in different forms of storytelling. So I'm going to use that. So that's my vocation, really, is ultimately to tell the story, the history of Sri Lanka through different narratives, especially through novels and plays. That's the main goal, although I'm doing lots of other projects like Taylor Swift's Dog. That's not really connected, but it got me money, right? But this is my major passion project, that main thing that I will probably do for the next 60 or 70 years. And I'm determined to do that because no one else is doing it. And here's where my hero or my role model comes into play, because she has already gone and done that. And that's Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Now, she's one of, just like John Green, Chimamanda is a divisive figure. Now, there are many people who really love her. In London, everybody loves her. They really get her and appreciate her. But I know there are others who do criticize her. But the thing is, I'm lucky that there is somebody out there who's gone there and done it, and she's used her own country's history, and then also given voice to a lot of people who don't really have a voice. Although there have been many novelists from Nigeria writing about that era, she is someone who has given it to a whole new generation, and she's made literature exciting. When I feel as though with Chimamanda in the world of literature, things feel exciting. And people get excited, and that's inspiring. So in this holiday, what's going to happen is that I'm going to phone Chimamanda, because in this scenario, we're good friends. And I'm going to say, Chimamanda, I'm doing this project. You know that, right? About the Sri Lankan Civil War. But I'm not there. I'm not at your level yet. So I want to spend some time with you about how you dealt with it, the strategies that you used, and also how the mindset, how did you cope with all this? And so what's going to happen is that 2 weeks, she will invite me to Nigeria, and I'll spend 2 weeks with her in Nigeria, and she will take me to all the locations of her, the first two novels. And we'll learn, and I'll have a lot of questions to ask her, and we'll obviously have lots of discussions about the craft of storytelling, and about how we can use real life events as fiction, in the same way that Thomas Keneally did with the Schindler's List, and so on. So we're going to have that discussion. So it would be amazing. Chimamanda is Virgo, I'm Cancer, and we'll get along really well. My sister is Virgo, so I know what they like. They're perfectionists. They really take things seriously. They are their worst critics, and I think I can get along really well with Chimamanda. And after 2 weeks, what's going to happen is that I will then take her to Sri Lanka, and then show her, and then she will then look at these locations and listen to people, and she might suggest me, okay, you could do this, do that. So in some way, trying to learn efficient strategies, because she's already been there. She's been a trailblazer. And one of the things I want to do with this project and all the other novels that follow is to write a novel in a way that's accessible, so that people who don't read novels would read it. That's one of the things, right? So I don't want to write a novel that's so literary that maybe only 10 people might read it. That's not the goal. And I think Chimamanda has shown that with Half a Yellow Sun. It has a huge readership. Even now, it still sells. And I can learn from that and about her mindset. So we're going to spend 2 weeks in Sri Lanka. And after that, what I'm going to suggest to her, Chimamanda, is that how about we write a book together about our whole experiences, both about the two projects that we're both doing, and also about traveling through Nigeria together and then traveling to Sri Lanka. And I think that would make a great book. Here's the thing. I'm just doing this as a tag, but Chimamanda, if you're watching this, why can't we make this real? We could do this for real, right? So think about it. You can contact me. Contact details are right at the end of the video. Let's talk, because I find you really inspiring. And I know many people who find you a real lighthouse in our journey as apprentice novelists and playwrights. So going back to you, what is your passion? Pick a novelist who will then fuel that vocation, so that you can go on a vacation with her or him. Time travel vocation. Now, in some of the other responses, we already touched on time travel. We've done a little bit of it. But the thing about this one, this question is pure time travel. This Vacation is going to be entirely about time travel. So in this scenario, we even have a company, timetravel.com, where you book a holiday with your favorite author, and you're going to go back in time or even forward in time, and to explore this whole idea of time travel, which is really exciting in literature and in mainstream cinema, plays and everything. So what's going to happen is pick your favorite author who would really appreciate time travels, and then you're going to go back in time or forward. Time travel stories are really tricky, right? So have you ever written one? Do you realize how tricky it is? One of the competitions I won, which is a huge competition, the prize was that they given me mentors in Hollywood, people who work like producers. So I got a producer. So every time I get an idea, I can pitch it to her. And then she will tell me whether it's viable, whether she and I could sell it to studios or production companies. And one of the ideas I had was this high concept idea for a time travel story. And the idea is that I'm not going to give you too many details, because what happens is that a celebrity from our time goes back in time to the time of slavery in the Deep South, similar to the one that Quentin Tarantino explored in Django Unchained. So this celebrity goes back in time, and there's an interesting plot, and then there's a lot of conflict, the usual 3-act structure. But the problem was, it was such a great speech. She said to me, this producer who's my mentor, and she said to me, time travel stories are super tricky, right? So be really careful. So then I pitched the idea in detail, and she said, oh my God, this is amazing. Can you write it? And the thing is, I just had a 1-page pitch with some details of some character. I went away and worked on this story, tried to come up with an outline, and I just couldn't come up with a really coherent story that's gripping, compelling. I have high standards, and I just couldn't do it. And she was right. As she said, time travel stories are super tricky, and there are very few good ones. Can you name 3 good time travel stories without Googling? Right? I would say, I love James Cameron, Galen Hurd's Terminator 1 and 2, not the others. And then there's Back to the Future 1 and 2, Audrey Niffenegger's Time Traveler's Wife, the novel, not the movie. And then I also love Sleepy Hollow, the TV series. So there are some good recent examples of time travel stories that work. But I found it hard to have a good idea and then execute it. There's a big difference between having a good idea that sounds so great and then having to execute it, which on the page it looks terrible. So mine didn't look good, and I didn't think I could sustain it for a long time, for 90 minutes, or if it's a novel, 90,000 words. I didn't know how to do it, and I thought about what Dr. Johnson said about Tristram Shandy a long time ago. He said, nothing odd works long, and I thought this idea is an odd idea, but I don't think I can sustain it for a long time. So right now, I just got it there, and if I can think of solutions, I would write it. So, but I love time travel stories, and I fantasize about being able to time travel. So in this question, which era are you going to go, and then who's your favorite author with whom you're going to go to this particular time and place. With me, the person I'm going to pick is George R.R. Martin. He's the hottest novelist of our time, probably since 2013, since that TV adaptation, although hardcore fantasy fans knew him from the mid-1990s, but it's a good thing that HBO has given George R.R. Martin to the world, and book sales have increased as a result. Publishing became a better state, because I was working in an area where we were selling a lot of books in 2013, and people would come in and they would buy the Game of Thrones books, because even these are people who don't normally buy books. And I thought that was a good thing to see, because they will come in to buy those books and then they end up buying other books. So, and it was a good thing for publishing when that happens. And even now, the sales of those books are good, and other books by George R.R. Martin. So that's a good thing. But I was into him before that anyway. But what's going to happen in this scenario is that, okay, George R.R. Martin said in many interviews that one of the inspiration behind that series was a book about English history, especially something that covered between the phase between 1377 and 1485. And so he studied that era and then created this world, partly an inspiration for that. So what's going to happen is that me and George, we're going to time travel back to that era, and we're going to spend some time there. And in that interview, he was also asked, well, what do you think will be the problem? What will be the big problems? And he said, the only thing is, if I get ill, there won't be any surgery, painkillers, so those things will be a problem. But the solution that I have is that we go back in time, but if anything like that happens, we're able to get back quickly. So we have a feature added to that, to this journey. And the purpose is to discuss time travel and storytelling. I love George R. R. Martin because he's just like Stephen King and John le Carre, pure storytellers. And there's an interview that Stephen King gave when he said that he had terrible back pain, horrible, and no painkillers would solve it. But then he got hold of the Game of Thrones books, and he just read them, and he completely forgot about his pain. And I think that's a good description of a great novel. That's a good example of good storytelling. And I think those books tell us what storytelling is all about. Just like a good Stephen King novel tell us, although some of his novels he's just rambling. But that's another story. So in this journey, we'll go back in time, George R. R. Martin, and we'll also, as with all the other novelists, I will discuss the craft and all the other issues. What else it would be a great time to do that. So I wonder who you're going to pick, and also name the 3 time travel stories that you think that work successfully. Luxury holidays. This is where you can go really crazy, right? You are a multi-millionaire, maybe even a multi-billionaire, like Elon Musk or Richard Branson. And your favorite author is also a multi-millionaire or maybe a multi-billionaire. So money is not an issue. You can do whatever you want to do. You can go for a holiday for 2 months, 3 months, or a whole 2 years, right? This is a scenario. So pick an author with whom you want to go on this luxury holiday, and why, and where would you go? Now, I'm going to go on a holiday with J.K. Rowling. She's the first, I think the first writer in the history to make $1 billion in her own lifetime. Dickens did make a lot of money, but he never lived long enough to, but at that time, billion, I don't think he would have been billion. Agatha Christie also made a lot of money, but not billion. So I think Forbes magazine said it's J.K. Rowling is the first writer ever to go get past that $1 billion mark in her own lifetime. So I'm going to pick her, but you don't have to pick a billionaire. There are so many multimillionaire novelists. The idea is luxury holiday, a holiday with no restriction, no financial restrictions. And I'm going to come to explaining why that's important. And why J.K. Rowling? Because I think because of the destination, I'm going to pick India. Now, Sri Lanka and India are neighbors, but I was too young to travel, right? But I was always fascinated by India and also China, another important country in that region. So in this holiday, I'm going to phone Joe and say, and I'm going to pitch this idea, which I'm going to pitch it to you, which is that India is an amazing universe all by itself, right? It has the second largest population in the world, over 1 billion, I think. And so many amazing things are happening at the moment. Even as we speak, more villages are getting broadband. And that means YouTube, we're going to be affected because some of the biggest YouTubers in the world could be coming from India in 5 years' time or 10 years' time. India is going to become a huge player. Even in BookTube, I guarantee you, within the next 5 years, the biggest BookTubers could be from India. Just because they got the numbers and there's a lot of passion and drive there. And it's an amazing country that has changed a lot. And I used to read a lot of by writers like Sir V.S. Naipaul and others about India, but I never went there. And this is a land of magic and wonder and witchcraft and mythologies and the religions. Even the Hindu religion has so many gods. And I think it would be just amazing. Marlon James has published that novel this year, which is supposed to be his African Game of Thrones. But I think somebody can write the Indian Game of Thrones with all the mythologies to do with India. Now, has somebody written it? If they have, tell me, because I'm not sure. I'm talking about proper, huge, epic like Marlon James's or or George R. R. Martin. So what's going to happen in this holiday is that Joe and I, because we're best friends, so I call her Joe, we're going to go on a holiday, but 6 months, right? 6 months. Because we got the money, we can go, and we'll have our own private jets, helicopters, because India can be dangerous, right? It's because from what I heard. So, and we're going to have our own team entourage of cooks, physios, psychotherapists, because in case I go crazy, she'll be fine. And then all sorts of medical professionals, a huge entourage of people. And it's going to be a massive tour. And the whole point is to explore that country, the region, the culture, and also more importantly, something that I know she'll be into, which is taking part in humanitarian projects. This is where having a lot of money makes a huge difference, right? People say, oh, money can't buy happiness and all that, but these are people who never had billions or millions. And I've listened to interviews with multimillionaires, and they do say that if you've got money, you can solve a lot of problems in the world. And I think J.K. Rowling and me in this scenario are multi-billionaires or millionaires. So what we're going to do is we're not just going to enjoy our time together exploring mythologies and storytelling and witchcraft and all that, but we're going to look at projects where we can give our money, set up foundations and help people. And one of the things I want to do is the leper colony in India. Now, Steve Waugh, one of my favorite sports stars of all time, in this big, huge autobiography, and I loved every single page of it. And there's a chapter where he goes to a leper colony in India. I was completely moved, and it's just amazing. And he's changed that experience changed his life and his wife, and they now sponsor children in that colony, and he goes there regularly. And when I read that, I thought I would love to be able to do that. I would love to be in a financial position where I could do something like that. And I think in this dream scenario, Joe Rowling and I, we could go there and not only help them, but do it permanently. Maybe build buildings where we can house some of these people, not just in leper colonies, in other orphanages, build orphanages. India is still suffering in large parts. So we could start there. So that will be the project, 6 months, me and Joe Rowling, and then we can talk about storytelling and all the usual stuff that I will do and you would do with your favorite authors. But also we're going to help people. And at the end of it, what's going to happen is that I will pitch the idea, so Joe, why don't we write a book together about this whole travel journey? And so it would be similar to what I might do with Chimamanda, except if we have a different slant. And then, hopefully that, here's the thing, Joe Rowling, if you're watching this, this is just a fun thing, but I'm up for it. If you're up for it, let's do it. Let's do it. You and me, go to India, explore all these places and write a book about mythologies and the craft of storytelling, also about helping other people, right? That's my pitch to you. But everyone else, if you're watching this, what is that going to be? What's that luxury holiday where money is no object, but you're going to use your financial abundance to make a difference in people's lives? Education holiday. This is all about a skill that you want to learn, or a skill that you already have, but you want to take it to the next level. So it can be anything. It can be whatever your passion is. So it could be video editing. Now, if you're a YouTuber, you might want to improve your video editing, and you might know an author who's also good at that, right? He may have written textbooks on it. So it could be cinematography. For example, Roger Deakins, right? My favorite cinematographer. You could say, right, go and spend a holiday with him. So he can teach you about cinematography, how to, all the advanced stuff to do with cinematography. Just an example. So it could be anything. Right? The goal is that you're going to find a favorite author so that you can learn a new skill or improve on an existing one. It's quite simple, but I think this might be one of those holidays that could be really amazing. Even though it's just for 2 weeks maximum, you can get a lot out of it. And the person I'm going to pick is Stephen King. And the skill that I want to improve is the craft of storytelling. And when this book first came out, right, 1999, I think. I remember watching a discussion. There was a panel on BBC Two, and Germaine Greer was on it. And I love Germaine Greer. I know she's another divisive figure. I love her. I think she's the best English literature tutor I never had. So I always listen to what she says. And she said the best. She gave the most useful review of this book. And she said, This is brilliant. I thought she was going to trash Stephen King. I thought she was going to be elitist, but she didn't. She really admired this book, especially the first part about his life and then the second part. But she said the only thing is it's about the fundamentals of writing. It's as if he's doing it as a way to get back to himself as a novelist, because he had that massive accident, and then it was a way of writing as therapy. That's what she said. And she also said something really important. She said that thing is, Stephen King knows the secrets of storytelling, right? But he doesn't reveal them in this book. He gives a lot of stuff, but they're all basic stuff. Now, back then, I didn't know that. So when I first read it, I thought, oh my God, this is amazing. But as I go deeply into putting in my 10,000 Gladwellian hours, the book that my brother wrote, Malcolm Gladwell, right? As I go deeply into it, I realized there are secrets. And people like Stephen King, they don't give it away. Other interesting thing is Stephen King is really good friends with John Grisham and Lee Child and Dan Brown and J.K. Rowling. And nearly said Joe Rowling, as if I'm a member of that little circle. That's the fantasy. So they're all friends because they talk about each other. And I'm sure when they get together, they talk about the secrets of storytelling, except they're not going to say it, because it's just like a magician's circle. Magicians, they're not going to reveal the secrets, right? But if you really immerse yourself into the learning the craft of storytelling, you'll realize there are tricks and secrets. And I got a whole bookshelf upstairs, textbooks to do with novel writing, screenwriting, playwriting. Not one of those textbooks reveal the secrets, because most of those are written by people who have never had a successful career, like Stephen King. And even he won't write a proper textbook that gives away the secrets. John Grisham wouldn't, Dan Brown wouldn't. Michael Crichton once touched on this subject with Charlie Rose, and I found that really useful. But he didn't go into detail, and that interview has been taken down. I don't know why. So he was close to giving away the secrets, but there aren't many. So the plan with my holiday is that we go on this holiday, because I know John Grisham and Stephen King, they meet up regularly. So what's going to happen is that we go, and my plan is to hire a cabin in Louisiana. This is the one that Anne Rice owns. And I love the novels of Anne Rice. I love that location. Never been there. So Steve and me, we're going to go, but it's going to be a remote part of Louisiana, and the cabin is there. No mobile phone, no internet. All we're going to do for 2 weeks is to talk about the craft of storytelling, and we're going to go for walks. He likes walking in the afternoon, as I discussed before. And all we're going to do for 2 weeks is to talk about the craft of storytelling. And I'm going to ask him in that time, as we get to know each other more, I said, Stephen, come on, this one. This is just basics, isn't it? This is for newbies. Because it doesn't give away the secrets, right? There are lots of tricks. I'm learning them now, but it's taken me a while, but you knew them and you're improving on that. So would you like to discuss this? And I hope he'll be able to tell me, or we'll discuss it, because I know him and John Grisham talked about it, because in one interview, John Grisham says that Stephen King claims that he's a pantser. He just goes to the laptop and just writes. But John Grisham said, I don't believe that. I know Stephen. I know Steve, he doesn't do that. So there's something in that. I also don't buy that. I think he has an outline of some sort and then works with it. Sometimes he does ramble. So those ones are probably he's just pantsing. But I think there is an outline. So I'll get to talk about, and I'll get to talk about John Grisham as well. What do you both guys talk about? Can I be in your gang? Can I be in your gang? And then we can bring Lee Child and Joe Rowling together, and we'll meet up regularly like that in Louisiana. So that's the plan. So don't you think this is an amazing idea, right? This will be really useful, and we become best buddies. And one thing I have to say to Stephen King is that before we go, I said, I'm going to be assertive. He's a Leo. I'm Cancer, right? Usually we don't get along. So that's why 2 weeks is just about right. And Leos are very bossy. So I have to play a submissive role. But on one occasion, I'm going to be really assertive. Because since 2015, when Donald Trump entered politics in a big way, and then you know what happened afterwards in 2016, Stephen King goes on Twitter and rants about Trump, right? So it doesn't matter what your politics, that situation is. I find it tedious because I want him to talk about novels, films, TV, the things that he used to do. Now he just rants about Trump. So when we go on this trip to Louisiana, I'm going to say, Steve, look, I know you really hate Trump, right? Everyone knows that. But could we not talk about politics in the 2 weeks? We just talk about writing, especially storytelling. Could we do that? And I think because there's an interview with John Grisham. There's a talk with John Grisham, 1 hour talk, and where Stephen King starts to rant about a Democratic politician. And John Grisham used to be a Democrat politician long time ago. But even he stops Stephen King and Steve, let's not talk about politics. And I really admired John Grisham for doing that, because otherwise Stephen King would have just gone and on, wasted our time. So, and that's what I would do. I said, Steve, no politics. If you want, when we get back, go on Twitter and just rant away. But just for this, let's do what you normally do brilliantly, right? Which is to talk about writing or write great stories. We might even have a few adventures, right? So, and Stephen King, if you're watching this could be real, right? Let's make it happen. Never happened. Vacation with your favorite authors. I really enjoyed making this video because it gave me the chance to look at my favorite authors in a different way and to really fantasize like a child what it's like to spend time with them. This is a fun exercise. I hope you get to do it properly because you can learn something. And why not? And the other thing about self-improvement is that you get what you focus on. Whatever you focus, you're going to get. Because before 2015, I used to have the dream, all these dreams. And I had this one visualization exercise where I said, I'm going to be friends with a Hollywood actress and this blonde, blue-eyed actress, and she will start texting me in the middle of the night or emailing me in the middle of the night. We're going to talk about our projects. This was just a fantasy. But guess what? I won a few prizes and that became a reality. So there was one time I would send her a synopsis for a novel. And there was one time I sent it to her, this actress, I'm not going to mention the names. And she sent me a reply back immediately on her phone saying, oh, Samuel, well done for this, but I'm actually about to have a meeting with this person, this leading Hollywood actor. I'm not going to mention the name either. And I thought, I can't believe this. I dreamt about all these things, right? So the lesson I want to share with you is that you get what you focus on. I know some of these things that I said seem like crazy, but why not? Why not Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie? Why couldn't she and I go on holiday to Nigeria and then Sri Lanka? It could happen. If you can dream it, you can become it. Disney or one of his assistants said it. Same with J.K. Rowling. Why not? I'm pitching it to her. She might watch it. You never know. Or someone else, right? You get what you focus on. So think positive things. Thoughts become things, right? Thoughts become things. So think positive things. So you might make it a reality, right? We attract the things that we put out into the world. So this is why I'm doing this. It's a fun thing, but some of these things could become a reality for you, right? So explore this tag. Have fun doing it. Now I'm going to tag a few people. I'm going to tag everybody within BookTube, AuthorTube and PoetryTube, but the following people, I'm going to tag them specifically because I think they will do a good job of answering these questions, have fun, and also learn something about themselves in the process. And also, here's the other thing. I've strived to make videos that give you value in terms of motivation, inspiration, education. And if you feel that I've given that, please subscribe to my channel and click the like button. The reason why I ask is that if you do more of that, YouTube, the algorithms will promote these videos and my channel so that more people will get to watch it and I can help them, right? That's one of my goals. So, but if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for watching. You really do have a great sense of judgment and excellent sense of taste.